Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about healthy child sharing plans and options parents have as they might be proceeding, considering divorce options. I'm Violet with Violet June Photography, and today I have with me Traci Williams with A Loving Way to Parent, Allison Tilton with the Gray Legal Group, and Peg McLaughlin with SoCal Legal Docs. Welcome, everybody. So today I want to just go ahead and jump into our first question. And I'd like to ask everybody, what are the most important components that might need to be included when we're considering creating an effective child sharing plan? And what do parents need to consider when they are looking at this to look out for the better good of their children?
I'll go ahead and start with that question. Thank you so much, Violet. Great question. As from an attorney's perspective, the most important thing that they can do is really focus in on the details of that plan. What I often see is that we've got parents who have very loose plans and they don't delineate when the child is with each of them. So the parents want to really focus in on creating a regular time sharing plan for their kids. They also want to consider the special days and holidays and which might be important to them or their children. And then they also need to consider summer because everything's different during the summer, and this is often left out of plans. Some other key components that I see come up in litigation is childcare providers and who is not a acceptable childcare provider to help the parents with the childcare needs of the children. In addition, they should also consider exchange locations and who's can be an authorized driver for those children. And those are like the key components of that plan itself. They also need to consider legal and physical custody. So a lot of parents get wrapped up in legal and physical custody. Legal custody is the ability to make your day-to-day decisions regarding your kids, such as where are they going to go to school, education decisions, doctor decisions, anything with medical, those are legal custody, and the parents communicate regarding those. Physical custody is the right to care, custody, and control of the children. This actually doesn't mean that much. What really matters is that time sharing that I talked about a couple minutes ago. And then the last little bit of advice that I could give is to not get caught up in the numbers of it all. So a lot of times people are thinking in times of percentages and having some percent of time with the kids. And that's not, in my opinion, the right place to focus. We want to focus on the actual timeshare and the parenting sharing of these kids and be less focused on the percentages and less focused on the child support numbers that are generated from these percentages. So that's really my 2 cents on the first steps of creating these effective child sharing plans.
Thank you, Allison. You had such great insight to provide. Definitely a lot of decisions that need to be made and a lot of options to consider. And so next, I'd like to just ask you guys, as parents are in this position where they're faced with all these decisions that they have to make and they're considering looking out for the benefit of their child, creating these plans, what other suggestions and resources would each of you offer to the families in this situation?
I'm happy to jump in on this one. One thing to really be thinking about, and we've named this child sharing on purpose, we're not splitting our kids. We're not splitting time with each other. It's not about the parents getting their due portion of time with the kids. It's sharing the kids. It's the kids having time with both parents, creating a relationship with both parents. We want what's best for the kids, and that's our focus. So when we have fights in this area, when parents are bickering about these things and talking bad about each other and those types of things, you have to really think about how does that impact the kids? All of that gets back to the kids. And it could be, it's not necessarily that parents are even talking about it in front of the kids, or they're not talking to the kids, which you don't want either of those to happen. But the kids are aware when feelings are hurt. They're aware when parents are angry at each other. They're aware when there's controversy over who gets what holiday and that type of stuff. Having a clear plan, it gives them peace because they know what is going to happen. And it allows for the parents not to fight as much. If the parents are fighting more and there is a lot of upset and animosity, you have kids that start getting angry because they're in the middle of it. They feel pulled. You have loyalty issues. When you're talking bad about another parent, you've got kids that are thinking, wow, can I say whatever I want to say in front of both parents? Or is one parent going to be mad at me? I mean, you don't want your kids to have loyalty issues. You want them to have a healthy relationship with both of their parents. Also, you don't want them to feel like they don't have peace in either home. You don't ever want parents that are questioning what's happening in one house when they're over at the other parents and that type of thing. You want kids to feel that freedom and that sense of being able to be calm and enjoy the time that they have with each parent. They need to have that. So the communication is going to be really important. Communication with the other parent as you're putting it together, and communication with the kids, and then having some amount of flexibility when you've set up your boundaries and you guys are really good at keeping those over the years. You can have some flexibility as family members come into town. Maybe the kids haven't seen. It might not be your weekend, but it would be a great place for the kids to be so you can work together. But that comes out of having that communication and really focusing on what's good for the kids and not getting your fair share. It's about the kids sharing with the parents the time that they need to have a good relationship.
That's awesome. I love how you just mentioned the importance of watching out for the kids and making sure that what's being said, that they're in the mix of all of that. What other suggestions might you guys have as next pieces for these families?
I'll jump in here. I'm a legal document preparer, so I am not an attorney. I don't give people legal advice, but if they are able to communicate and come to an agreement regarding their child sharing plan, I'd be an option for them to get that into writing with as much detail as they require to keep it enforceable, and so everyone knows what to expect. We get that written up as, it's called a stipulation and order, and it goes under the same case number as their divorce case might be, or their parenting paternity case or anything like that. We get it written up as far as, like Allison mentioned, exchange times, exchange places, who's in charge of transportation, what time is dad picking them up and what time's the mom dropping them off, that kind of thing. And as much detail as they need for holidays and summer vacation, school breaks, that kind of thing. We get that all written in, a document that gets signed by both parties, gets filed with the court, and that becomes a court order and it's enforceable. And I think it gives both the parents and the children something to count on, that everybody knows what to expect, and it keeps everybody, happier than the unknown.
That's awesome. And I love how you're able to offer this resource to the families. And I heard that you mentioned when they're working amicably that you're able to provide that resource. Do you ever encounter situations where families aren't working amicably? And then what would those parents' next steps be?
I can jump in on this part of it. So, sometimes parents, I'm kind of like the last resort in this conversation for this. But, sometimes parents are working amicably and it falls apart, right? There's just some issue that they just can't resolve. And that's typically when they end up bringing an attorney into the situation. And we have the ability to file what's called a request for order with the court and send parents to child custody recommending counseling, which is a court-provided resource for the parents to continue to work on a parenting plan for the kids. And if all of those things don't work, we ultimately end up in a hearing in front of a judge, and the judge is making the orders. And essentially what happens there is that you have somebody who's not the parents dictating to the parents how they need to share these kids. And it's very, very common that this happens. But if you utilize the services of Traci and the ability to work on these communication skills, and then try to resolve it and have PEG draft up these plans for you, if ultimately those things are just not working, we are here to help represent parents at court and fight for them to get them what they're looking for with regards to these parenting plans. But those parenting plans typically aren't thought of as parent sharing plans because the parents are angry with each other. So we provide the legal option for a lot of parents through the legal process.
Awesome. I love it. You guys all each presented different options for these families. And I really heard what you were saying, Allison, where at your step, if families aren't able to work it out, somebody else might be making decisions for them, which going back to that first question we had, if parents are working together and creating plans that are focused on their child, they might be able to have a lot more control in what they're doing. Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, for everything that you've shared today. If anybody would be interested in learning more, please absolutely visit this website, Temecula Valley Family Resource Network, where you can learn more about each of their businesses. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Violet.
Thank you.